I was. Oh,
Are we live?
lots of money.
Lots and lots of money. Okay. Welcome back to SwitchCast, our Baker's Dozenth episode.
13?
13.
13.
This is number
Is it
13.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good thing I'm not superstitious because you'd
That's
be the
amazing.
unlucky guest. But
Ooh.
I'm your host, Doug Tabbutt, founder of SwitchCars, GT Vault, and two-time overall Cannonball Run record holder. No asterisks. And lots and lots of evidence. Each week I'll have a new guest co-host, some famous, some unknown, but all with a wealth of knowledge and experiences to share. Tim Neely is my guest co-host today, and I want to say that his wealth of knowledge and experience is probably inversely relational to his fame.
Oh, that's actually a huge compliment. And I hope that's the case.
I think it is, because you have not a lot of fame and you seem to be very smart.
Oh,
right?
This is now my favorite podcast that I've ever been on, and I did not pay him to say that. But I do hope that that's the case. I mean,
I was taking a swing at a curveball. I wasn't sure where I was going with that.
Cheers
But
to that.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, we're going to take your calls and questions. We have a lot of really good questions lined up. Tim has a ton of experience in the car industry. He's started probably half of a dozen different automotive-related businesses. Some he's sold off, some he's still making money off of, and some he's still pouring money into, kind of like a boat. And we're gonna pick his brain, because probably the most common question I get asked is, "How did you get into this?" Everybody thinks they want to be in the car business, so we're gonna dig into that a little bit tonight. You can join us live. You can call in with your questions and talk with us. The number to call in is 216-294-4124, or you can post your questions in the comment flow of where you are watching live, and our producer, call screener, comment forwarder, Ethan Huffnagel, will get them over to us, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can. So, Tim, it is nice to have you on the show. I feel like it's been like 35 years since I saw you last in September.
It has. It has been a minute. You and I looked a lot different on that day.
Yeah, so much different. So when I met Tim at MotorVice, which is a rad era immersion of culture, but it's basically a car show where you dress up. It's a Comic-Con for car nerds, and you dress up in 80s and 90s garb. And Tim was wearing a killer mullet. I had never met him before that. I knew who he was, and I just thought the mullet was him. So then he sent me pictures of himself for the podcast. And I'm like, is this? No, that's you're sending somebody else.
I did bring the wig, but it doesn't really. I would have to like totally do an outfit change because a mullet with this would just the clash would hurt my face.
Yeah, and apparently you didn't recognize me either.
Well, that's because I was aware of you from the whole VinWiki Cannonball thing, which you're fairly renowned for, but it's because you literally were Freddie Mercury at MotorVice. Literally. I mean, it was and there's some pictures on the MotorVice page. I think you've posted some pictures too. Video is what is required to really articulate how. I mean, the mannerisms. It was like he studied the Live Aid concert. And it was... Well,
I've been told that I am incredibly narcissistic and pretentious. So I think that just came naturally. I just have that
I don't find you... I must be pretty narcissistic and pretentious because you did not hit my pretentiousness meter at all. So that's not good.
I think that's what it takes, though, to pull off a rock star.
It was amazing. And the swagger. And, since then... because I think even people that would have been aware of you did not know that it was you, because it was I'm telling you, it was stinking amazing. It was great. So yeah. And that was, sadly, I was so busy that day that we really didn't get a chance to talk much. And then I called you up a few weeks, a month later, just because.
And you're like, hey, man, I thought you were coming to my show. Where were you?
Right, yeah. Yeah, so it's been good to kind of get to know you a little bit more. Definitely, this place speaks for itself with the cars, and what you've built here is pretty dope. So
thanks. Well, I want to find out about what you've built. So in 16 years, I built a whopping one business, although I guess I have offshoots of it, storage business and whatnot. But you have quite a rap sheet of automotive experiments. I guess some good, some not. I wrote down in my notes, I really want to use this line. Tim has been gainfully unemployed since 1998.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
I thought it was.
Man, I got to come to you.
I
This
like
is my new ad
words.
copywriter here.
So let's go, since we're talking about MotorVice, right?
Yeah.
You started a car show as sort of a business, as a passion.
Well,
is it a business?
So, yeah, it is a business. Is it a
nonprofit?
It's a loosely. No, it's a business. COVID has not been helpful. I launched it for everybody, that maybe doesn't know what MotorVice is. And you can find out more about it, Instagram, MotorVice show. I started it really because I have a large collection of Vice era cars, cars from that era. And there really wasn't anything in our area. It was, necessary. I feel like, because as far as car shows go, and I had put on car shows prior, some with like a benefit, to sort of give the money to a charity, some just because it was like a fun get together. But that show, I really wanted it to give something that would be, and you came to it, so you kind of understand. The motif is not just like, let's get cars and outfits. It's kind of like the way I do it. It's like a
cultural immersion.
It's a cultural immersion.
Yeah.
And I really wanted it to be with the DJ. I spent we tried it with a couple different DJs, and then I started interviewing DJs and found DJ Victor Torres, who's done the last 6 shows with us. And I mean, honestly, like that team, the team of people that really put that show on. And then it's scripted. I mean, the whole show, there's a timeline of events, and we've really tried to make it about those events. We've done, breakdancing, and everything's, and we want people to get involved. And so as far as like, did I do it, to like start a business? I mean, not one of my good friends does Import Alliance, Don, and I talked to him before I actually started it to just kind of get an idea of what he did and how it worked for him, because honestly the main thrust behind ultimately really doing Tim's Enthusiast Garage and MotorVice is I have a lot of automotive opinions, and I like to have a place to spew those opinions. And so ultimately, I like writing. I miss the magazine format. I write for S3 magazine, and a conduit for me to become someone who's like in the car scene and has a relevant opinion, was definitely something I was interested in.
Sure.
So
since nobody else would pay you for your opinion, you decided to build your own platform.
Really, I mean, truly, that's. Oh wait, I'm narcissistic.
That is
holy.
Okay,
cow.
so in a different vein, that is exactly what I did with a car business.
Yeah.
I knew that I'd never get a job as an automotive journalist because I couldn't make it through college. I'd never get a job as a test driver or an engineer or whatever because I couldn't make it through college. So I'm like, okay, I'll just figure out my own business so that I can do what I want, so I can write about cars and test drive them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't get to test drive them like, magazine writers do, but I get to play with cars. So anyway.
Which is, and I think, to sort of capstone this, the MotorVice thing, I mean, truly I wanted to, everybody that comes to I've made so many good friends just from MotorVice, doing MotorVice. And honestly, like as a result of being there, everybody, there's so much like-mindedness. Even Art that does Radwood, has been, I love to see his posts, his passion and what he's done with that show and where he's taken that show. the whole thing, I don't look at it so much as being, we're definitely not like a competitor to that. It's just really, it's a joyous time to be with your cars and your friends.
Well, there's a lot of room, and I guess I was going to ask you about that. So Radwood, most of us see as the original 80s, 90s car show. Certainly a memorable brand. It's
been interesting, so when we did our first show, I'll say this, because I'm a huge, careful where I step here, but I had some interesting conversations with those guys after our first show, which was very successful. And again, when I say successful, like monetarily, it was not successful, but it was successful in that everyone that came was like, this is the best show that I've ever been to. And I mean, I think honestly, the reason, I started it, quite honestly, was I wouldn't say that I don't love 60s culture or 50s culture, but like, how many car shows have you been to, particularly living in the Midwest?
There's
in
like
Ohio?
7 a week in Cleveland.
It's totally painful. And every time you go to a car show,
it's the Beach Boys.
Exactly.
It's the exact same thing.
And so there was nothing going on in Ohio. I wanted to do a show that was, even really before Radwood started. Radwood, I would not take anything away from what they've done. They have definitely gone for more of like a corporate sponsor, large event, huge show field, and that's definitely not what we've gone for. But even like there's a group of guys called Y2K that does a car show that's real similar. I think inevitably there was going to be all of these shows, and unfortunately, there was some contention. When we first, after our first show, we had Andrew Mitro, who's was my artist for Tim's Enthusiast Garage and MotorVice, who's now gone on to be, he works for Mercedes-Benz. He does all of their like the Mercedes-Benz Heritage Collection art, and he's kind of a hit, particularly on Instagram. But he did all of our officially sanctioned art for that, and one of the pieces of art was a Countach, because we had a Countach at our first show, and it was similar in design to a Radwood thing. And my friend Matt wrote an article that was somewhat hurtful. Matt, if you're watching, I was hurt by that article, but I love you anyways. And was, this is just a ripoff and blah blah blah. But like, honestly,
imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. If it's not something that's like proprietary, it's a good idea. You can't copyright the thought of doing.
And I would say,
an era-themed show.
Let me, get really sort of esoteric with this for a moment and say, like, 70s progressive rock, like King Crimson was fantastic, but also the band UK was fantastic. Was it exactly like King Crimson? No. Was it derivative of King Crimson? Yes, a little bit. And those of you who like 70s progressive rock will really, really like this whole section of the podcast. And those of you who don't will be totally lost.
Let's use an automotive. Reference, and like Cars and Coffee, right? That started in California. Sure. They copy-wrote the name, and they were trying to sell franchises of it. And Cars and Coffee popped up all over the country because it was more of a movement than anything.
Right,
like, how do you copyright a group of people getting together
conversation that I had with
in a different way than they have before?
And I'm very much like so I think Radwood was started very much. So when I start a business, it's a business. When I started MotorVice, it wasn't really so much I wanted to do to be successful in the business aspect of it. It was more that I wanted to be successful in having a place to show my cars and for my friends to bring their cars and to hang out
and to wear spandex.
And to wear spandex, because I did actually. There's some questionable pictures from the first MotorVice of me, and if you see those, I'm sorry. But yeah, and I'm glad it came up in this because you've been to both events.
Yep.
Both events are different. We really try to make ours. It's again very scripted. It's very we DJ and I, DJ EK is his. He's actually a car guy, so he has a older Civic hatch, and we go through and like here's the vibe. And so for like our Florida show, which yes, we're trying to do another Florida show this year. COVID has really put a wrench in it, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on MotorVice, but we really try to make it an event that has a clear start and a clear end, and you're involved, and there's something to do at every moment.
Sure.
The cars are almost like, in other words, it would be fun to go to even if the cars weren't there.
Right.
That's really
anyone who just wants to bathe in nostalgia.
Right. And honestly, the reviews that we got, in Tampa was the show where we had the most not car people, and honestly it was the most fun show.
Right.
It was people were like so shocked that it was happening.
People are, dare I say, a little bit uptight a lot of the time.
Oh yeah.
And they take themselves really seriously. That's why they get all about their, paint to sample 1 of 3 edition that they drive to Cars and Coffee and nothing else. So Radwood and MotorVice rips that pretense out, and you have to not take yourself very seriously in order to kind of have fun,
which I love. And after the first show, one of the most common comments we got was like, my car, got laughed at, or I didn't get accepted because for whatever reason at Radwood, and it was really cool that I could come to this. And honestly,
wait a minute, they complained that their car got laughed at?
Yeah,
I feel like that's half of
I know. I think. Well, you mentioned it.
Car
guys.
I think it's a compliment.
Car guys. I think kind of. There's a
right.
There's a wide swath. In our first show, we had a super amazing Yugo that was a barn. It was a barn find, and it had actual ants. There was an ant hill inside the car.
That's
and
awesome.
It was amazing.
Preservation class trophy at Pebble Beach.
So we actually had that in. So we had it similar setup to the Ohio show that you came to. We had the indoor section was like a VIP. So it was like a Countach, Testarossa, all nicer cars, and this Yugo. And the guy with the Countach was an older gentleman and was very upset that the Yugo he did not he was one of those guys that would bring the lawn chair and sit by the car and accept his accolades. He was like, what in the world is happening? And
you walk by his car and he goes, would you like to talk about my car?
Right. Yes. that guy, he realized he did not understand what was going on.
Oh man. So I think one last question about MotorVice, and then we'll move on to your other businesses. I don't know why this is, and maybe this is the case in other people's area of passion, but I feel like there's this sentiment that it's almost immoral to make money on fun cars because it's a passion for so many people. And even more so maybe with car shows, right? Car shows shouldn't be profitable.
Right.
They should be a thing where you go and maybe you do it for charity, but I feel like there is an underlying sentiment that it's immoral to do it as a business and to make a profit off of a car show.
Yeah, there is. And I think that gets into sort of a philosophical discussion on, the American dream, I think, honestly, because I for sure. So our first year we did do it as any profits, and we made very little profits, but we did give some money to the Arthritis Association the first year. And in that model, honestly, because one of the main reasons we even did that was because one of the people that helped out really put that together had her background was in not-for-profit car shows. And that's fine. And I think toy drives and that all of that stuff, philanthropy and tithing and giving money and help and those sorts of things, I revere that and love that. So I'm not saying that should not be a part of it, but I totally agree with you. When ticket prices are announced for any show, I've heard people complain about $5 ticket price for a car show, and you're like, depending on what goes on, particularly at MotorVice, where there's, I'm flying in DJs, I'm, particularly renting a park, doing all these different things, and what should your time be worth? if anything's worth doing, it's worth doing well.
Oh, but you're doing it for the car community.
Right. Yeah, but I think you should, as far as people that would have a problem with you, that's an obscene profit on that Ford GT, or, that how can you, well, right now, Porsche GT cars. So people will get a new car, a new GT3, or, right now it's GT3s. Everybody's GT3 is coming in.
100K over sticker.
How could you ask 100K over sticker? Like, how could you make, well, I mean, like, people will pay, depending on the color. I mean, that's 100K is reasonable.
Right.
So I think it all comes down to, we all have to make a living. And I think some of us, when it comes to the automotive industry, when I was a kid, I didn't have any money. We didn't really talk too much about that, but I came up poor, single mom.
Well, let's just go there.
Yeah, single mom family. My father was not around. My father was a car guy, but he was not around from the time when I was 3, and we did not have any money. So, like, when I think about how I came up compared to, what the perception is of, and I would never, there's a lot of Instagram, self-made, and I would never do that because it just feels so like I'm not a braggadocious, type of person. And if you are, that's fine. But, my target was like a Lotus Esprit. I got every car magazine. I wanted to be, David E. Davis. I wanted, I wanted to be a automotive journalist, and I wanted to drive these amazing cars. And in particular, like the Lotus Esprit, the XJ220, the F40, cars like that really caught my imagination. And so, from my earliest time, it was like, I really want to be around, and I couldn't have even conceptualized owning one of them. I mean, because how would that happen? Yeah. Because my family didn't even like, people always talk about like things that are, advantages or privilege or disadvantage. And I'll be a huge ombudsman here for a moment for the poor, because like if you came up poor and your like grandparents weren't wealthy and their grandparents weren't wealthy, you could not conceptualize. You had to get a mentor. Someone had to invest in you for you to really even understand wealth. You know what I mean? For you to even because it was like an obtuse concept at that point. So, when I was a kid, luckily I had fantastic parents and grandparents, and they instilled really solid values. So I saved like every penny that I made doing odd jobs, and eventually, my first job was cleaning cars at a little dealership by my house. It was a GM dealership, and this was kind of like their crappy used car lot, and I got to like wash the cars. But I saved all that money, and when I was and I really, from having that passion for cars, you start to really, you be almost, I wouldn't say obsessed, but like you just know, you track it its whole life. So with the Esprit or with any car that I ever loved, you knew it was, 55,000 and then it depreciates to this. So like the depreciation, I was like, when I was about, how old would I have been? 16. I realized what the depreciation curve was, and I was like, wait a second.
See, okay, so that doesn't bode well
for now,
for the depression of up and coming car guys now, because
I want to apologize.
They're like as they're getting raises or their net worth is increasing or whatever, they're just seeing the cars go the other way.
Well, right now, I gotta hope that right now is a little bit of an anomaly. We were talking about this in pre-production because professional car dealer Mark Spence and professional car dealer John McDonald were here, and we were there you go. We were talking about this, and like, is this the new normal? Like, maybe, I don't know. I don't think so. I think that there has to be, so that A4 that needs an oil pump that has 180,000 miles and is way overpriced, eventually that's going to be a $1,500 car.
Right.
It has to be.
Right.
And the same thing I'd say, with the Esprit or like even any of those cars, while they have appreciated almost to a ghastly level here recently in the past, really 3 months, I have to think that, in the midst of this inflationary cycle that we're in, there's going to be a a downside to it. Now that downside might be higher, but I have to think eventually your money, you will have to make more money.
Sure.
Whether that's, I mean, this is getting into like, the financial aspect of it, but eventually I think it'll work out. The depreciation curve, I think, will still exist to some extent. And for all of you that were poor like I was, I still think that there's hope. And,
I was also not well off, contrary to many commenters' opinion.
Everybody
think I was a silver spoon whose daddy never said no, but whatever. No,
yeah,
I'm there with you. I did not have the opportunity to be around cars, or I don't know. Maybe I had. I guess I always knew that somehow I would figure out how to be around cars, so it wasn't an option for me not to be. But I didn't know how that was going to play out. But I certainly didn't get to be around them when I was a kid.
Yeah, for me, so, yeah, I mean, I just always, there was really nothing I wanted. I told you before this, like, my two passions were music and cars. And honestly, like, I was really, there's certain things musically that there are, like, there's some gifts there. And I for about a decade of my life, that was my primary source of income. And music is definitely, the thing was, I found like it's almost sucked the joy out of it. Doing that vocationally really, I don't know, that's the best way I can put it. It sucked the joy out of it. And I found that, like, I enjoy music and I'm more connected with music even now that I've taken somewhat of a high, I wouldn't say, I still play music and I still am involved, but doing it vocationally, I think there's certain sacrifices that you make, and anyways, yeah. But
okay, so good question to segue from that, right? Mm-hmm. So you love music,
yeah.
Being in the music industry took the fun out of it for you. Has the same thing happened with cars? You love cars. You've made cars a business for the past 25 years.
So on the industry level, absolutely, no. Nothing has been diminished in the car. For me, people have disappointed me greatly, over the past,
I'm so sorry.
20 years. You in particular. No, I'm just kidding.
Not yet.
No. I mean, I think some of that is I've disappointed myself. Like, I think my expectation, and this is, I mean, broad. Like, so I'm saying, like, people you look up to, like, don't meet your heroes type of thing. Like, yeah, I've been disappointed in that way, or I've had my heart broken on that front. But in terms of, like, I still feel like at a car show, man, I don't know. I still feel, I just still feel the same way about cars that I always have.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Good. So. We're going to go to commercial, then we're going to get to some of the questions. I guess we'll go into the first business you started.
Yeah.
Figure out how you came down this train. Half a dozen. I'm making up words. Wow. Michael Scott here. Half a dozen businesses later. Our first sponsor is Celebrity Machines. They are a proud sponsor of SwitchCast. Celebrity Machines offers more than 250 different screen-accurate license plates as they appeared in movies and TV shows like Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, The Fast and the Furious, Breaking Bad, and so many more. We have some, like, MotorVice era plates here along with my sticky note to remind me to set the computer to record. Yeah, so some great plates here. I watched. Oh, we need to finish the ads. Go to celebritymachines.com and use discount code SwitchCast for a whopping 25.39% off. That's celebritymachines.com, discount code SwitchCast. Speaking of movies with cars in them, I watched The Wedding Singer last night. I literally had to look at my notes. That's how bad my memory is. I don't remember what I watched last night.
I can't remember what car was in the
I was just going to ask. Pop quiz, what do the protagonist and the antagonist drive? Anybody out there know The Wedding Singer cars? What were the cars? What's that?
The Wedding
Singer. Come on. It was before you were born. All right. It was an AMC Gremlin.
Oh.
Was the one Adam Sandler drove, and the one that the jerk drove was a DeLorean.
Wow, I can't believe I literally have.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen.
I mean,
that
I
movie
wouldn't get
since,
that if I didn't just watch it. But you're MotorVice king, so
for people that are into car movies, Sideways. We were talking about at dinner. You had left, but Dan and I were talking. Sideways features a Saab 900 convertible, which you might enjoy.
Vegan?
No, it's like the old body style. But if you're that guy,
I guess
watch
it was
Sideways
a 9.3
and enjoy it. Yes, that was a 9.3.
Okay, so 1998-ish.
Yeah, so
you got into the car business. You started your first venture.
Well, yeah. So prior to that, so honestly, the thing that really got me into cars the most, and this will be the car journey. So I got my first car. I bought another car and flipped it. I bought an Audi 5000 CS Quattro in a junkyard. This is crazy. This car was pristine. I'm driving by the junkyard. See this car, and I was like a total Audi nut at this point because my first car was a Volkswagen Quantum Synchro, which for those of you who know what that is will absolutely love it. For those of you who don't, I'm sad that you don't know what that is. But anyways, it's an Audi. You know, it's like a 4000 Quattro in a Volkswagen shape essentially.
Okay,
it's pretty cool. It's all-wheel drive, five-cylinder noises. I should have just said that.
Yeah, okay.
5-cylinder noises.
Yeah.
So this 5000 sitting there, I'm like, it's like pristine. I assumed it was someone's there, but it didn't have any plates on it. So I went in and I said, "What is the deal with this car?" They're like, "It has a blown engine. The guy wants to just part it out." I'm like, what's the deal? He's like, $500 would probably take it. I was like, okay, because as you remember, I had been saving all my money. So like I had $500. I went home, got $500, gave him the $500. I am not mechanical at all. So my next thing was like, now I got to find an engine to put in. It just so happened there was a shop by me, and put an engine in it. Long story short, I sold it. I made money. It was a great thing. I said, "Oh my gosh, I can buy and sell cars."
Did your first thing of Coke.
This is great. I want to do it again. In the meantime, many things transpired, and I took my car to be serviced at this place called Eurocar Service in Norton, where I was really close with Andy, who was the father of Tom and Brian, who started ECS Tuning.
Okay, yeah.
So he was like, "Andy, I like
this
to think
portion of the episode is brought to you by FCP Euro."
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, they don't. They're gone. They're not part of the company anymore, and they sold out, and it's great. But Andy was like, "Timmy," he had this great like Serbian. I hope they're Serbian. I think they're Serbian accent, and he was like, "You should help us sell cars." And I was like, "I would love to help you sell cars." So Tom and I started going to the auctions and buying cars. And I, in addition to the other jobs that I had, sold cars off their like little side lot, and it was pretty great, and they were very fair, and it was good times, and some of my best memories are going to actually one trip in particular. Tom and I went out to Mannheim at we didn't leave to go to Mannheim, Pennsylvania. So you've probably done that trip many times.
No, I don't go to the auctions.
Well, I did. This is like 1990. That is something you should be really proud of, by the way, because it's
I go for entertainment.
It's the Connects.
Every now and
it's the Connects. Back in the day,
yeah.
That was like the only thing I knew. Sure. So we had a 928 GTS that was like maybe a year old. This was a new car at this point, and an M3, also a new car, E36 M3. It was like the first year that those were out. Took them to the auction. Big money. It's going to be big money. Well, on the way. This involves speeding. Am I allowed to do this story?
Yeah, you have immunity here.
So, yeah, okay. So, on the way out, we had walkie-talkies because there was no, cell phone. I don't even did we have cell phones in 1994, 5, 96? We probably did.
Come on,
Maybe it was
MotorVice.
Nextel. Maybe it was Nextel. It was Nextel. We had Nextel.
Push to talk. That
probably actually what it was. So, we're going out, and Tom's like, do you think this thing will hit 150, the limiter? I'm like, yeah, do you think this thing will hit 178 or, which is 186, I think was the top speed of the 928 GTS. And so we go because there's this one place where it's like a little downhill and then long, and you can see, and it's divided on both sides. So you're not going to hit a deer. There's not any cops. It's like a pretty safe, you should never do this, but I did. So I'm in the 928. He's in and I will say up till about 130. They were like pretty close to each other. And then the 928 just started pulling. 155, I hear beep, beep. I'm out. I hit the limiter. And I'm like, I did not hit the limiter. I'm like, do you think this thing will go 175? And he's like, no, you tell me, So I'm going, and it's like, and at about 168, it felt like it just hit the wall. It like would not accelerate anymore. It was like 168, 169, 170. And this is like 1995 or so. So think about this. I'm going 100 and a lot, At least probably going 160 miles an hour in this car. It's fairly new.
If it was an Italian speedometer, you would have been going 90.
I would have been going on 200. I would have hit 200. But we're going along, and the tire pressure warning light comes on. I almost pooped. I did not poop, and I slow down, neutral, slow down. At about 80, I'm like, okay, on the brakes, off to the berm. I'm like, Tom, I think I got a tire out. He's like, what? No way. Tom comes up behind me. Minutes later, I mean, it seemed like an eternity for him to like catch up. So I must have been going fast for a while. Anyways, he comes. It ended up it was like a pound low. So boo on the early tire pressure warning lights.
So that's your excuse.
Yeah. So anyways, we sold the M3. Did not sell the 928. Actually, the highway ended up a truck jackknifed. I had to sleep in the 928. Which was the worst thing ever. The next, on the way coming home, we sold the M3. I'm like, I'm not driving anymore. That was crazy. I still can't believe, that whole situation. And we're going back home to Ohio. And Tom's like, I gotta beat, what was it, 168 you saw? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I gotta beat it. I'm like, Tom, it's like the middle of the day in traffic. He's like, I'm gonna get it. Dude, we are doing stuff that I honestly to this day have never driven the way he was driving this car. We're like passing everybody. There was cell phones because people were on them calling, no doubt the police. And we're going about 145, and we pass a cop going the other way.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, wow, this is going to be seriously entertaining, Tom. And so he's like, I'm not lifting, I'm staying in it. So he stays in it. We stay in it for a while, and we piss off a lot more people. And I'm like, that was insane. We got to get gas. So we get off at one of those like little areas. We're getting the gas. We got some food and gas. We're coming back out. He throws me the keys. He's like, I'm going to get us arrested. I'm like, you darn right you're going to get us arrested. That was like the craziest thing.
He throws you the keys and goes, you take the fall.
So I've got the keys, and we get like maybe 50 yards from the car, and I'm like, wow. It's backed in from the front. It's like blocked from the front, blocked from the back. There's a line. Every conceivable sheriff, highway patrol, every police, everyone, maybe the FBI, everybody's there. I'm like, oh, and I got the key. So we get to the car, and the guy approaches me, and he's like, is this your car? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, I mean, how old am I at this point? I'm really young. Tom's really young. And we look really young. And they're like, is this your car? And I'm like, yeah, this is our car. And he's like, do you have a registration? I'm like, no, because we didn't. It was like a dealer car.
Dealer tag.
Yeah. And he's like, you're gonna have to show me something. I'm like, we got the title. And he was so, you could just see, he's thinking like, these rich some bitch, and he's just really, you can just see he wants to throw the book. Anyways, this is the craziest thing ever. So we get over to the car. He looks at the title. He looks at my license, whatever. And the craziest thing, he's like, I'm going to give you guys 3 options. And I'm thinking like...
I love 3 options.
I'm thinking like...
The last time I got 3 options, it was in reference to a school shooting.
Huh, that's a story that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, this is high. This is better than those
anyway.
3 options. So these 3 options were, 1, you can... the first option, I'm not making this up. This was the first option. This was a state highway patrol trooper. He's like, I will escort you to the next exit. You can get off at that exit, and you can drive like that on roads that I don't patrol. And I was like, I can't even believe that's an option. That is an awesome option.
I really want to know the other two.
Like, what are the other 2 options? He's like, option number 2. He's like, you can continue to drive like this on this road. He's like, and your license will be revoked. I'm going to impound the car, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, option 2 sucks. He's like, or option 3, he's like, you can continue on this road on your way home and you will go 55 miles an hour the entire rest of the way, or you will be jailed. And I was like, okay. He's probably bluffing on the 55 thing. Bro, I promise you, every state highway patrol, every 5 miles, they were waving at us. They had someone like every 5 miles to the state line. And I was like, Tom, you driving on that. There's no way your dad's going to be so pissed if he finds out about this. Now he's going to hear about this because I'm sure Tom's never told the story. But we get to the Ohio state line in this 993.
928.
In a 993 Carrera pulls up next to us.
And
like, whoop up, grabs 4th, and I'm like, oh boy, Tom, whoop up, hits 4th, bruh. So that's my I don't even know, why did I tell that story?
I don't know.
That's my first
story.
That's my first.
That's your first business.
That's my first.
Risky business.
My first thing was helping ECS sell cars. They then developed brake kits that were somewhat shady and made a big business out of it and sold their business for hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah.
And now they're back into the car business.
Yeah. And Monaco, is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, those guys are great.
I like those guys. But
I haven't seen them in a few
about
years.
That aspect of the car business, maybe it's just me coming from little and doing it on my own. I'm not going to say I'm bitter. I'm not bitter. I think it muddies up the car business when there's a lot of super rich people doing it as a hobby.
I totally agree.
Because they do not care if they make money or not, and they have enough money to just throw it around and buy cars, and it makes it more difficult for the little guys. Whatever. I'm a little guy, so I can complain about the big guys. I'm inclined to agree
with you because I still, am not, ridiculously wealthy or anything. My first car business was, so I worked in the music industry sort of simultaneously here. We're going to fast forward a few years, but I started a company called Bonfire Cars, which was a really tiny, well, it wasn't tiny. I mean, it was a 3-bay. It had a little showroom. It was nice. It was for a first crack at, selling cars. It was fun. Getting back to that, sort of generational knowledge, I had none. I had very little business acumen at this point in time, none. I had one guy who really believed in me and who was like, yeah, I'll help you, let's do this. And his name's James Bentley, who lives up here. Hi, James. If you ever hear this, I gave you a shout out. Super nice guy. Didn't know anything about cars, but he knew a little bit about business. And he really, for that first year or so, he was there to sort of just, I guess, hold my hand, which I would say none of anything else would have happened had it not been for James to sort of give me that, that push.
Sure.
So, and, I get the question all the time, how much money should I have to flip cars? I made a living for a bunch of years with a seed of about $15,000. Now, this is in the 90s, so obviously
that's
call it 30.
50 grand
30,
today.
30 to 50.
It was 30 grand last month. It's 50 grand
it's 50
today.
Grand right now for sure. And then, we grew that, and I continued to grow that through, the early 2000s, really up until the scary, sort of the scary period.
Talk about that. We discussed it a little bit about
the recession.
At dinner.
I ended up. So I never for Bonfire Cars I never did a floor plan. So I always just used my money, which I would not recommend necessarily that you do. It was probably a lot harder than it needed to be. But at the same time, yeah, when I made a bad decision, which really wasn't until, well, I made some bad decisions. One of the bad decisions was business partner related. That's a whole other conversation. But purchasing related, I have a pretty good, and I think everybody that's here, honestly, we know a sure thing and we know a good thing, and I think I've developed that over 20 years or so. And so my feel for what to buy has always been pretty good. So I've never bought a real stinker. I've never had a car until the recession. I was a little lost at that point. I had started a larger car dealership with a friend, which was again probably a little bit of a mistake. And it was a lot bigger. It was this size dealership, and when that ended, I wasn't really super stoked about having a business partner again. So I was like, I'm just going to do what I was doing. So I went back to the whole, single, just my money and buying, and I got stuck with a few cars that I lost, I probably lost about half of my total working capital. And and it was not optimal. And I think, what that did for me was more like a mental setback than anything else. Like when I look back on that time, like if I would have just probably kept my head in the game a little more, it probably wouldn't have been as big of a hit. But I decided to, after that losing money on cars, which any dealer that's listening to this will be like, I lose money on cars every week. For whatever reason, I had a really good run where I didn't get super rich off of it, but I was able to continually multiply my reserves until then. And when that happened, again, simultaneously, I had always been involved in music. And so I started a company called Volante Sound Picture. And we did very well for a few years. Honestly, for about a decade. A little bit less than a decade. And I was telling you, I did get blown out on. I just really was like, we were doing tons of band records, a lot of voiceover work and music for video games, scoring, and it was just like endless. You know what I mean? It was just very, and I had a couple. There were a couple records that were like reviewed in Paste magazine, and like, I don't know. I just didn't. It was a lot of work for not a lot of reward. My children were young at the time, and I've just really felt like I was missing out on their childhood. And so, went into music really hard. Simultaneously, still did always flip cars. I've always, there's never been a time when I didn't have a dealer's license or work closely with another small dealer. I've, for 20, whatever years it's been now. So, and again, I think that's been great. And coming back to that, so in about that same, so after that crash, that 2008, was that when the thing was?
9-ish is when it, yeah.
I had at the same time started with three friends, a company called P3 Cars, P3 Gauges, and Jordan, Rick, and I, could not have imagined, it was like the perfect time. And I saw it like straight away. I was like, man, this is like, it was like a really, the timing was just perfect. I had like some pretty good connects just from going to car shows and being involved in, automotive culture, which we really haven't talked too much about, like that the undercurrent really is what we haven't really talked about, is sort of the people that you meet and the people that you get to know, which is really how you get, your book of business is if you're a car dealer and that sort of thing. But you also get that, just in a business sense. I had a great mentor at the time, and I really felt like, this gauge company could be next level. ECS was at like their peak, and it was great because our first meeting with ECS, they totally panned us, and they were like, oh no, this will never be successful. And then within a year and a half, we had made it pretty successful, and they were like, please let us be the distributor for this gauge.
And you said you had a printer in your basement.
Yeah,
your buddy
had
a 3D printer.
Yeah, exactly. And he, my friend Rick was just a genius electrical. He never went to college for it, but he really had a thing for programming and for electrical. And he had a version of this gauge in his car. And we, and Jordan and I were both enthusiasts. And so we really worked to refine it, made it what it was, and really developed a brand around it. And the success was huge. Jordan left very early, like right as we got successful. He just really felt called into the corporate world, and has had a pretty successful career. I think he's with Safelite Auto Glass now. He's like their lead web designer. And my heart was, I loved buying and selling cars. I loved, and I really, what I learned there was, like the spark. Everybody has their own unique set of skills, and like getting things going, like the rah-rah guy. I'm like the rah-rah guy. You know what I mean? Like,
I saw that on display.
Yeah. So getting things going is not a problem for me. And so I sold that business, and that was how
long did you have that?
So
before
we
you
had
sold
that 2015, I think. So
Okay.
it took us in this version
5-ish years.
Yeah, it took really the first 2 years. Anytime you start a business, I mean, the first 2 or 3 years are just like the grind.
Right.
But that one, really, it exploded, and I think fast forwarding, I've thankfully, and I'm truly thankful and blessed that I've been able to sort of replicate that spark and fan those flames, and on other things as well. So, yeah, sold that, and with that, bought a couple cars, and started a YouTube channel. So,
there you go.
Which is still not. And just to briefly speak,
so everybody wants to be a YouTuber. How's that going?
Well, so I don't want to be a YouTuber, but what I do want, again, getting back to what I said earlier, and you kind of have to, because we're a little bit all over the place. If you've listened to this whole podcast, you know that really what I want, is really to potentially write for magazines and to be a voice in the car community, which I, to the degree that I want to be right now, honestly, I am. There's another magazine I just started writing for that I won't mention the name of it, but it's a great publication. There's potential for another imprint to be started. There's a lot of opportunity there. So sure. I'm always, excited, for what's next. And to the extent at which it's not like my goal was like, I want to be famous. I want to be an influencer. Like if that's your goal, like I am not your guy, because like I did not want to be an influencer, and I'm not, but I did want to do videos. So with the Tim's Enthusiast Garage video channel, which is monetized, so I would love for everybody right now. Let's take a commercial break and say everybody go to Tim's Enthusiast Garage. It's youtube.com/Tim's Enthusiast Garage and subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Only after you subscribe here,
which I'm sure you already have, because this is a great podcast. But what I wanted to do is not a podcast. What I wanted to do is like when you're looking for a car. So say you want, not that one, but like, that TT, you got like an Ibis white TT out there.
Yeah.
3.2.
No, it's a TDI swap.
Really?
Yeah.
We should talk about that. That's
yeah.
Cool. Anyways, so say it was a 3.2 DSG TT, I would, if I was looking for that car, I would do a video on the car. I try to be as informative. Cars I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
So I have videos on my V8 Esprit, the S4S Esprit. I'm doing a build on a 1994 barn find S4 Lotus Esprit S4. I've got videos on the 996 and just cars that I own. And so like informational videos on like what the car's like to drive, do you want it? Because when I'm looking for a car, I go on YouTube and I'm like, let me see. And there's certain reviewers that I really like,
mm-hmm.
and there's some that I don't.
Right.
And so like I just do the review that I want to see. And it has been awesome because like, so my kids do the video portion, and my friend Nate Thomas, hi Nate, shoots video for it. And it's like pretty good. It has room to become fantastic if I wanted to make that a full-time thing. So it's like,
but that's the key.
I also,
it has to be a full-time thing.
But it will never be. So here's the thing. I want, like, if you go and look at one of my reviews, so say you go look at my Alfa Romeo 4C video. I think it's like, if I was buying an Alfa Romeo 4C, that would be my favorite 4C video. And if you look at the comments, like so many people bought a Maserati Grand Sport, and I'm okay with this because it's a great car. Because it is honestly a good car. It gets really panned. It gets panned by people that don't own the Maserati Grand Sport.
Hold on.
Yeah, we can go back to the Maserati Grand Sport. Anyways, but like people...
We had a question from Alex Sebastian. That Lotus, and the Aston, But also thinking, what's that deal with that crap Maserati?
Yeah, so I'll tell you about the crap Maserati. So first of all...
You don't know what Pandora's box you open.
So if you watch the video, my goal was to make a beautiful video that tells you the pros and the cons of every car. Maserati Grand Sport has some flaws and some downs, but it also has some like great up points. I talk about all that. I present it beautifully. At the beginning, again, thinking of the juxtaposition of where this started, I scored each of the videos. So, I mean, painstakingly. It would take like scored. I'm talking every moment scored.
For the non-musicians among you, that's like
and the funny thing was look at my so any of those first year videos, turn down the music. Like everybody was like, I'm not trying to hear your crap music. Okay. So I after that I've created like maybe 5 or 6 pieces, and then I've chosen a couple pieces. I use those for the bed now. So I don't do that anymore. But I really wanted it to be like a standing testament to like, if you like that car, here's the best review of that car. And I like, I'm proud of those videos. My target isn't to be like a successful YouTuber. A very successful YouTuber, whose name I will not mention, I met a few years ago via a mutual friend who is a successful TV personality. And this guy was like, you're not even a YouTuber until you got 500,000. And I was like, you don't need to sit next to me at dinner tonight.
So,
because it wasn't what I wanted to do. The algorithm.
You don't want to be a successful YouTuber. I'm going to lose my train of thought, so
okay.
I got to...
You go ahead. I'm going to take a sip of this.
I need more. Anyone out there? Could I have some of that wonderful Japanese whiskey? Thank you.
Wow, you paid that.
I had less. Oh, gosh. See, it happened. Now I've lost my train of thought. Okay, you said your goal was not to be a successful YouTuber.
That's not the primary
your goal. Yes, everybody, that's a benefit. But your goal is to do something you love, to give people what you think they want. You can walk behind the camera, That's Mark wants to be on
Ladies
camera.
And gentlemen, professional automotive car
whiskey
salesman.
pourer.
Mark Spence.
Okay, so no Malort. No. Your goal is not to be a successful YouTuber. Your goal is to do something well, do something with excellence.
Yes.
I think that's the case. The majority of the questions we get asked about the car business, or I think that people get asked in business in general, they see a nice car and they go, what do you do for a living? The connotation of that question is, how do you make a bunch of money? And that used to be a plague of the Ferrari forums where...
Oh, it still is.
Okay, fine. I'm just not on there anymore, so I don't know. But people's goal is to become successful. And that's their primary goal. Like, I want to get rich. What do I do to get rich? Instead of saying, I want to do things well and with excellence, and that should be rewarded by the marketplace and have a wonderful byproduct of that will be wealth and enjoying the things I want to enjoy. But we should strive to do things that we want to do and to do things with excellence first. And I like that about what you're trying to do with the YouTube channel. Your primary goal is not to be a YouTuber.
Exactly.
Your primary goal is to make good
people
videos.
Always give me, advice like, man, your channel would blow up so hard if you just did this. And I'm like, I know. If I followed myself around every day, I mean, today at the shop, there's an SF90 and a Huracan and a Tan. There's like every day there's interesting new cars around. Like, yes, I could like, bro, it's so sick to have my life, blah, blah, blah. That is not
the mullet, though.
That is not the well. Yeah, maybe I should, and I could do that. I could do
mullet
that.
And spandex.
That's a whole other thing.
Mullet and spandex, full time.
That's a whole other thing.
Be the 80s car guy.
I would do that. That is, my thing is the eBay algorithm wants consistent content.
YouTube algorithm.
YouTube. What I say?
eBay.
Let me tell you what the eBay. Let me tell you what the
eBay
eBay.
know what an algorithm is.
eBay algorithm. This is hitting. This is hitting right now, Doug. Woo! SwitchCast. No. The YouTube algorithm wants, that the every day or at least multiple times a week post. I want to give you, I live in Ohio. Like the roads are bathed in salt. You don't want to see an outside video right now. Like you just don't. I have, 16 or 17 things that need shot. It's going to happen in the spring, and that's fine. Yeah. So, So if you want a good car review, come to my channel, because it's, I'm only going to continue to do it. I'm not deterred by slow growth. Again, I may, there may be, so my youngest son, actually, who's been pretty instrumental in the last few videos, is interested in like it being the full-time, thing. Mm-hmm. And so I have like kind of thrown it around, but you know what it takes to do something like that full-time. And I mean, you're friends with Ed, and it's like, it's its own thing. Yeah. It's its own. And that's why I could never do it. And right now, what's most important for me is, with regards to the YouTube channel, putting out good content. I will interact on a daily basis with people, on my Instagram or on YouTube that reach out to me, and I get comments every day, and I answer them every day, and I'm happy with that. Everything's monetized. It makes a little bit of money. I do have some merch, and I'm about to actually launch a pretty aggressive targeted campaign with some new merch that's coming out. So I mean, like, it's a thing, mm-hmm. but it's also a thing that I'm really not willing to sacrifice. Like, I wanted like pretty, timeless videos, and I think, my friend Afshin, who started Petrolicious, he had a real pure thing that he wanted to do with that. And for the first few years that he did that, I mean, it was as pure as, I get goosebumps actually thinking about the early days of Petrolicious, because it was so unbelievably perfect, for it was just the best. So I'm not saying I want to do more review based stuff, but again, it'll grow at the rate which people find it and like it, and at the rate at which I put content at it. And, in every spring and summer, I get a huge bump in follows, and I tweak, the algorithm gets, oh, this guy's serious. And then I start getting, this video will get 100,000 views, and then the winter happens, and I don't. And again, I've always wanted, even more than business, my primary thing has always been, my kids. I want to make sure I spend time sewing into my kids' lives. Like, I don't want there to be conversations that I didn't have with my kids, even about cars. My kids are like amazing enthusiasts. Like they're really into, they get collector cars. But they also get like life, like they're quality men. So like that would not have happened if my primary thing was like, I want to be rich. And if you see a car that I have and you're like, ooh, how can I get that? Exactly what you just said is how you get that. If your target is like to be rich, you'll just become a horrible person, because the ways in which you can get rich easily are all horrible. And you won't enjoy it either. You won't enjoy it. Because if that's your primary goal. You'll be sitting in a hot tub and looking at your Lamborghini, that it'd just be horrible. And so I'm not saying that getting those things makes you unhappy. It's the pursuit of excellence which truly will make you happy. Truly. I mean, like, honestly, truly. And that's true in your marriage. The journey makes the destination more enjoyable. It totally does. It's true across the board. No, it's not. We went to Jamaica lately. The flight was horrible and the destination was awesome. It's a great whiskey, analogy. More whiskey for Doug. We're going down a philosophical road. We're getting too serious. We're going to go to a commercial, and then we're going to get to some questions, because we have quite a few of them. Boxcast is a live streaming company based in Cleveland, Ohio, and they serve broadcasters and viewers around the world. Their founders launched Boxcast back in 2013 with one purpose: to get rich. Nope, to make people part of the experience.
If you're looking to live stream your podcast, church service, car show, sporting event, wedding, or even your Cannonball attempt, BoxCast is an easy, flexible live streaming platform for organizations. It's so easy, we are coming to you via an iPhone. Head over to switchcars.com/BoxCast for your free trial. We're going to get into some of the questions here and try to help people out with their business stuff and getting into the car business.
This is going to be awesome.
This is going to be awesome. We love interacting. We have one question from the live chat. If y'all wanted to branch outside of the car business, how would that look? What would you invest your time and resources in? That's a very difficult question. I don't know anything.
I have an answer. So my wife is currently passionate about vacation rentals and events. So vacation rentals and events is the next thing. So I think as you're successful in business, whatever you do, but specifically with cars, at some point you should get rental properties. Like legitimately, you should own the building that you're in. You should that is a great idea.
Yes.
So to sort of segue from that question, real estate is a great place to park money. It's a great place to it's fun to learn about. We are in a unique time here where Airbnb and VRBO, or Verbo as they say, there's just a lot of opportunities there, and some of that can dovetail. A friend of mine just bought a house with a track, so like there's so many like opportunities there, and I think
a
it's
racetrack.
I wouldn't really call it a racetrack, but like a small road course.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
bought a house with a small road
very
course.
small road course, but like, yeah, if you could conceptualize like,
is that like I've seen something like that on Airbnb?
Yes. So
is
this
the
is
thing
similar to this.
Okay.
The one on Airbnb is like basically like a drift track that kind of goes around the property. This is similar to that.
That's friggin' amazing. Where is it?
Yeah.
What's his address real quick?
I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean that's something. I'm not even saying that that's like a requirement, or that's a specific thing. But that's a great thing that you could get into sort of casually. And again, you can do it in the same way that I did the car thing, where you save some money, get one, and then you rent it, get some more money, buy another one, and
or
I
just
think,
leverage the crap out of yourself and buy 20.
Which right now I wouldn't recommend that because things are crazy right now. So you're going to end up with $6 million in real estate that's worth $4 million.
No, it's only going to go up in value.
Yeah,
that's what I hear about cars
works.
every day. They're only going to go up in value. And that's
for
why you should buy them.
For a short time, that actually may be true.
Right.
But
I did not pick a question of the week in advance. So I'm literally just going to pick one at random. Our question of the week is brought to you by Switchcars, and specifically by their merchandise store, shopswitchcars.com, where you can go and enter SwitchCast as your discount code to get 10% off your entire order. We have awesome t-shirts like Mr. Mike DeWine is modeling for us and others. We're not going to get into politics. Anyway, vote. Our question of the week that I chose at random here is from 23 Patalanch. What is the best car to sell that gives high returns? Initially, I read this, and I read it in the vein of what we talked about last week, of cars being investments. And I'm like, I hate this question. It's the dumbest question ever. But it's not, because he's talking about it in, as far as I read, he's talking about it in the vein of, in the context of the car business. Like, what would you focus on? My initial answer is not Corvettes. Yeah, Corvettes have terrible margins.
Yeah. My answer to that would be, first of all, it would be two part. One, pick something you're familiar with. So if you're familiar with Volkswagen Audi, again, whatever it is, let's not say Volkswagen Audi, say Volkswagen Audi for everything. well, let's say Volkswagen and Audi. But if you're familiar with that, you know where they're going to rust. You know what cars are going to have oil consumption issues. You know all those things. Therefore, you're limiting your potential horror.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When you buy Chrysler Sebring that you have no idea about, which is going to be garbage, and you don't know anyone.
It's why I don't deal with muscle cars, because I don't know the difference. One of them has a hood tack and the other doesn't, and it's $20,000 difference in value. Like
the other thing I've found too is like the people that I have a million people that can fix Volkswagen and Audi and Porsche and like the weird cars that I have. Like I honestly like Bentleys are cars that I feel comfortable buying because no one else feels comfortable buying them, and I've had some, and I know guys that can fix them. So it's like it's a no-brainer for me. But it's the last car you should buy if you've never had a Bentley and you don't know anything about Bentleys, you should not buy a Bentley.
Right.
It's about to be a horrible day for you. I always did really well on cars that I knew, and cars that I knew and the cars that I've done well with recently have mostly been, Porsches. If you are aware of the Porsche market, in other words, you've done your research or you're familiar with what cars typically sell for, then buy a Porsche because you will pretty much not go wrong. Again, though, number one, the first part of that has to be the case. If you've never owned a Porsche, you don't know anyone that works on Porsches, you live in the middle of Iowa and have never seen a Porsche, you shouldn't buy a Porsche, especially if you're trying to flip it, because there's no one that wants that car in the middle of Iowa, although if you live in Iowa,
sure,
I'm sorry.
But
Iowa.
So that advice can be extrapolated out to all of business, though, because you it's essentially market research. If you're starting a business, you have to know your product, know your margins, know your customers, know your suppliers, and it'd be asinine to get into a business that you have no idea what you're doing just because you've been told there's good margins. It's like the people that get duped at the real estate seminars. They pay $1,000 to go find out how to get rich in real estate. They haven't the faintest idea how to do a foundation inspection. Or
that's a great example,
right?
Yeah, that's a great example.
If you want to know how to do real estate, you research the local market and find out what stuff is buying and trading for, and get to know the schools and
I do
the
think
rodents and the
that's
crazy neighbors.
Pretty
and
universal.
It's the same thing with cars, with anything. Yeah. Okay, 23 Patelanch. Sorry, it's a username. Reach out to us. You get a free T-shirt of your choice for being the question of the week. This is not a business question, but kind of a general automotive question from Travis Ray. My current situation is that I own a 2009 R8 V8 stick with 30,000 miles on it. Time for new suspension. I live on a smaller island off of Massachusetts, Nantucket, home of the Whalers. So I honestly rarely drive it. Miles don't go up on anything I own. I've been considering a move to a GT3. What's with the cars? Like, you should get a whaling boat. Like, why do you have a car on a tiny island?
The question
buy a
portion
Vespa.
of this is the best.
Buy a Vespa and get a boat. You'll enjoy it a lot more. You can catch fish with it. I've been considering a move, maybe a golf cart with like a body kit. I don't know. Like, what do you do? Drive around to the bars on the island?
Listen, I get the island thing. I actually,
but I don't get the supercar on the island thing. I get the island thing.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, sorry, Travis. I've been considering a move to a GT3 in the next few years, but only the 14, 15, 16s, the 991 will be in my price range, as the 10-year motor warranty will be up shortly after purchasing. Is that a terrible idea?
We're going to have very different answers to this question.
Well, Tim, you know a lot about owning high-maintenance cars out of warranty, so my quick answer is they all failed at the beginning. Like, I don't see them failing all that much now. So
it's rare.
Yeah, you're probably fine. But Tim, go for it.
Here's and this is gonna like totally. I have also been thinking about GT3s.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to buy a new one. I think the answer right now is to get an allocation at your dealer. Be a patient lad. Wait 6 or 7 months because you're going to be in the car.
But you didn't listen to his question.
Yeah.
Price range.
I did.
His price range is like $150,000.
Look at the.
Okay,
here's the
fine.
crazy
You buy
thing.
a brand new one
Here's
with
the
no.
crazy thing.
No dealer is going to let you order a new GT3.
He can message me. I have a dealer that can.
You shouldn't say that. You are going to get blown up now.
Message me. I'll help you. No.
I'd like one at MSRP.
Yeah, I think.
Can I have one, please? I'm not a flipper.
Here's the deal. I just think those cars are incredible value. I think patience. I mean, honestly, patience is a virtue right now in this car market. And you know, if you want the older one, that's fine. I think that price on the older one is like almost a pipe dream right now.
What?
150
for 991.1?
I mean, bro,
all over. All over.
150.
I've sold like 3 of them recently.
150.
Yes, for a 991.1, 14 to 16
How many
GT3.
miles?
10,000 miles.
And you see them staying there?
I see them going down. They made like 25,000 of them.
I mean, they made 25,000. They made 50,000 of every 911 ever, yet the prices keep going up.
The prices on everything go up because it's 2021. It's inflation. That doesn't mean they're going to keep going up. They were tanking. You could buy one for $100,000.
Well, I look forward to more tanking. You know, right now, I think because of the proximity in price point to a stripper new GT3. And again, I mean, if you go and build a 911, like you've got to add all kinds of stuff to a Carrera S to make it interesting. You got to add all kinds of stuff to a Targa Ford GTS or whatever. The GT3 like stripper is pretty awesome.
Yeah, the
seats aren't great. You got to spend $6,000 to get the real seats, but I don't know. Like the base, try to find a dealer. Call Iowa. Dealers in Iowa. I don't know.
I think you should get a kit car. For an island. Again, what are you going to do with 450 horsepower on an island?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So
get one of those Volkswagen kit cars and put a GT3 body kit on it.
Yeah, but he can go off Nantucket Island. Did it say he never leaves the island?
I don't know. You got to take a ferry. Definitely need a car with axle lift. Okay, here's what I would do, honestly. The R8 is an awesome car.
I know. The
stick is awesome.
The car he has is only going to go up in value, even given this weird
exhaust, suspension, tune, and get rid of the front differential and all that. You'll have an Audi GT3.
It needs ball joints right now, anyways. So.
Oh, it needs a lot of things. 30,000 miles. It's got carbon buildup and.
But honestly, man, what
a
great car that is. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, they're both good. The GT3 is a little too video gamey for me. It does too much for you. It's PDK.
I like both of those cars are great.
Yeah.
The manual R8 though, the manual R8 is like, and the funny thing is, everyone's like, I gotta have. He said he had the V8, right?
Yeah,
I like
that's
the
the better one.
I like the
V8. That car was designed around that engine.
Lotus Esprit, same thing. The car, when they design a car with an engine in mind, and then everyone's like, oh, well, what about the V10? All right.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Lotus. The V8, like, it's a little extra unnecessary weight above the belt line. Not needed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hope that was helpful. We didn't really answer your question. Nick Sirianni.
He just unsubscribed to both of us. I'm sorry.
What are the steps involved with opening up a line of business line of business credit? Business line of credit. Sorry, that's the only way I can understand that. What are the steps involved with opening up a business line of credit to purchase inventory/machines and other things besides the building itself? Or is having the liquid capital up front always the preferred option? I'm a big fan of liquid capital.
Nothing beats, again, back to earlier, own the building, liquid capital.
Yeah.
If those two things exist, then it's, I don't know. It's somebody, because here's the thing. All these people asking about a line of credit or about a floor plan. And then in the same breath, we'll ask what car should I sell? Like what?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's going to be, that's a setup for disaster. That's
right.
You're going to get the floor plan. We're going to tell you, here's how you get the line of credit. You get the line of credit. And then next stop bankruptcy, because like there's money isn't.
I want to be in the car business. Have you ever bought and sold a car for profit? No. Okay,
right.
Start there.
No doubt.
Go buy just one.
Yeah.
One.
I would say right now, like whatever you know, if you know, again, Volkswagen and Audi stuff, go find an interesting Volkswagen and Audi.
Yeah.
Can you find it? Can you flip it? What was the how long did it take? Did you like dealing with the customer? I mean, that's a question, because like buying and selling cars, there's so much to it.
I think this comes from a general perception of going into business for yourself, that you have to start with a bunch of money, that you have to have a facility, that you have to have equipment, this and that, and you don't. You need a proof of concept is what you need. With
all of these businesses that I've mentioned, including the ones that I kind of came into and have now built up, with the tent tools business, with 44 Tools, it took me like 2 years to really understand the marketplace. So like if I was like, oh, I'll sell tent tools, and just went out and randomly started doing that and didn't have any idea what the market was, I mean, think about that. How crazy that would be.
Right.
Being able to get the line of credit, like if you have good credit and you know what I mean, and you own your home, you can probably get approved for whatever.
Right.
But
do you want to stake your home on something that you have no idea will work or not?
You shouldn't. Proof of concept and doing it, the money will come. I mean, in my experience, anytime I've done something semi-successful, all interest comes. The money is usually not the problem. The know-how and the excellence is the problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's what I would say about that. I would say don't do it. Like the answer, to answer the question is, should you get a bunch of money and just start a car business? Probably not. If unless if you've already sold 5 or 6 cars on eBay and 5 or 6 cars on Bring a Trailer and 5 or 6 cars on Cars and Bids, and you have like a little system that I import it from here and then I sell it in the United States. Okay, and you've done that and you can do that again. Then maybe more money is the answer. But if you've already done that, the money is probably already available to you, either from an investor or from a friend or a partner, lawyer, tread lightly, contract. But that's the advice there.
But don't do it yourself.
Yeah, do it yourself.
Yeah.
And take time. I mean, honestly, like there were years, I had no money. My target was I wanted to have a Lotus Esprit by the time I was 25. I was 26. It took me till I was 26.
Do you feel like a failure?
No. I mean, because, honestly, I wanted an XJ220 by now. I don't have an XJ220. I
would have an XJ220 if they were still.
I don't even $400,000.
200.
I don't.
There was one locally.
I cry.
I missed it at Barrett Jackson in 2010. Whatever. Everybody missed everything in 2000. No. Hold on. Less. I was broke in 2010.
I don't want to hear this.
I've been broke twice in my life. It's terrible.
I don't want to hear this story. And I'm sorry.
When I was broke and the entire rest of the world was broke, a Jaguar XJ220 sold at Barrett Jackson in Las Vegas for $130,000.
Yeah.
$130,000. It was bought by a guy in Cleveland. A couple years later, it was at the local service shop.
Was it silver?
Blue.
Okay.
It's at the local service shop. Same car. Had the fuel bladders redone, big service, this and that. The guy wanted $200,000. I was sort of into some money then, but it was a stretch. I offered him $180,000. I'm like,
now, did you want to get
lose.
it to flip it or get it to have it?
I think at that point it was some of both. Again, the dangers of being in the car business. It was like, this is a dream car. This is a once, maybe in a lifetime opportunity to have that dream car. I'll have it for a minute and then flip it. So I offered him $180,000. Back and forth.
Wow.
The deal fizzled. Never got it.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to cry about that later tonight.
They're $500,000 to $600,000 to $700,000 for good ones now.
I don't want to talk about it. You know what?
And I feel like that's one of the
go back here.
That's one of the few 90s supercars that's still somewhat attainable.
Even at that price, it's like.
Well,
I don't want to say a no-brainer, but like compared to like where F40s are and where everything's so crazy right now. But
It's
right
insane.
now I think is the danger. You know what I
It's
mean?
dangerous.
Like do you buy, if you want, did you see that Murcielago that just sold? Not the one that's about to sell, but the one that
The gray one.
No, that one
Come on,
did
Tim,
it end?
You're a musician. You should know. You gotta loosen the thing,
No,
then
no,
move it.
I
Then
did.
tighten it. Okay.
I did. I'm tightening it down.
I give all these people.
Bro, I need some more compression on my voice, Ethan.
Liquid compression right there.
Hold on a second.
All right.
I'm almost out of Cavassier. Can I get some more? Hey, Mark, hook me up, bro.
I'm not going to make any ladies' man references because that is my wife will unsubscribe.
Mark, I mentioned you on International Podcast. Don't give me. He just gave me the finger. That hurts my feelings.
Oh. Ren Henry 1 asked,
"Thank you.
Is it best to focus on one mark or spread out your focus while beginning?" I think we kind of already answered that. You do what you know. You specialize. You focus on something.
And do
you take
truth.
good deals as they come and develop a focus from there? And I think that's an option as well. Like if you know how to buy stuff and scout out a good deal, then fine.
I got I have an example of that. I was at I don't usually go to the auctions, but I go intermittently to the auction. And a couple of these cars were both way outside of my typical, but both of them were home runs. One was a Corvair 4-door, and it was like free. If I told you what I paid for it, and this is years ago, so it's been 10 years. And then more recently was an Acura Legend, and it was like the most pristine Acura Legend. In fact, the guy that I sold it to, when he came to look at it, this is like a year ago, he actually cried. This is the only time that's ever happened. This dude, like, I don't know if he had that exact car or what, but he's like, "I'll be back. I didn't bring it because I didn't bring the money because I didn't think it was gonna be truthfully, it's so perfect." And he like didn't get 15 minutes away, but he's like, "I got the money. I'm coming." This is like 9:00 at night. He's like, "I'm coming back. I'm gonna get the car." This dude was like emotionally moved
over a Corvair.
No, this was the Acura Legend.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yeah, the Corvair and the Acura Legend, and both of them were like at the auction, free. No one was looking at them. They both ended up needing very little in recon. I did a little bit on both, but yes, no brainers are no brainers,
right?
Like,
but no brainers. If you're outside of your area of expertise, you can always get burnt on.
Both of these were so no-brainer that even if they hadn't started or gone in gear, it would have still been a no-brainer. I mean, literally, if someone had given me an Acura Legend and a Corvair, it would have been only marginally cheaper than what I paid. Yeah.
Mighty Morphin Joe, what do you think will happen to all of those oil change places in a future without regular oil changes? Well, if you're in the Mustang Club, we live in a present without regular oil changes. Is there an opportunity to create the next generation of quote-unquote automotive preventive maintenance service business?
You know what's interesting to me, because of the whole electric thing that's happening, is you have Volkswagen in particular and Ford in particular intentionally engineering their cars overly complex in order to keep the service department busy, which is like honestly the most transparent and scary thing I've ever seen. Like, they've seen what Tesla has done and they've said, wow, that car, you can pretty much change the whole battery pack and drivetrain. It's very serviceable, cheap, economical to service. They've gone the other direction. There's extra hoses. There's extra flanges for those hoses. There's, on the Volkswagen in particular, the cooling system for the batteries is so over the top. There are so many failure points, so I don't think that even if we totally got away from petrochemicals, which, the irony of now having these, direct injected or hybrid direct injected engines that are like produce almost no emissions and we're so good at it, to walk away from internal combustion right now seems like the wrong call, because with electric cars, all that power it's just not at the car. Like all the emissions just aren't at the car. You're literally just moving
That's
it.
why they're popular, though.
You're just placation.
People just want to feel good.
Ugh.
There's nothing bad coming out of their tailpipe.
You people are screwing up everything. Anyways, the problem is, like, look, there's always going to be repair shops. Period. Is it going to be an oil change like it now? Probably not. If electric truly wins. And let us remember that at the turn of the century, in the early 1900s, 1908, 7, the cars that sold the most were electric cars. They were replaced by the much easier, internal combustion engine. Like there's some infrastructure challenges to electric.
Are you saying it was a better technology?
I mean, yeah, listen, this is a whole thing where it's like, I try not to be too divisive or too like,
okay, well then let's move on because we got more questions.
But yes, there will always be repair shops.
JT Squared 22. How do you choose cars for your inventory? They choose me. Do you choose based on personal preference, ease of selling, or biggest return?
Wow, that's a good question.
I choose the one I like the most.
Yeah, I mean, I've always done that. So when I've bought inventory to buy, so there has been times when I've bought for like other dealerships or I've bought to like put inventory places. If I owned the business, I would never buy that way. I would only buy cars that like I would buy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that like if you buy, it's an easier buy. It's an easier sale. When someone comes to look at that car, they can feel your passion. They can feel that. It goes back to what we said earlier, like buying what you know. I mean, I think you have to have a connection with the car. I think is the
sure.
It makes it easier to sell.
I always joked. I'm really not joking. It was proven today. I always say that I'm a terrible salesman, and that's why I'm not in the regular car business, because I can't sell anything. I can only express my passion about something that I liked. And that was evident on the phone today. I don't really take sales calls anymore. I do talk to my clients and referrals and stuff like that, but I don't answer the phone, which is, it's been the best year of my life.
That's awesome.
I have people for that. But I was talking to a guy and he was playing games, right? We have this car that's up on an auction. He found it on the auction, and then he wanted to come look at it and buy it. And he said, "Well, what's the price?" I said, It's up for auction. He's like, "Well, can I just buy it?" I'm like, "Dude, you found it on an auction site. The auction's 9 days." And I got a little bit short with him because I'm like, and my wife was sitting in our office, and she's literally coaching me on how to be nicer to this guy. And he goes, so can I come look at it and buy it? And I said, "No, it's up on the auction." My wife goes, "But he can come look at it and then bid on the auction." She's feeding me sales lines. Like that I'm that bad at sales that I can only push what I'm passionate about.
I think that you realize that, and I think it's a good thing. I mean, and I think that shade of green really suits that truck, by the way. I really do. I really do. But yeah, I mean, and that's again, people always talk about shady car dealers. That's a shady car buyer. You know what I mean? Like, it's a car that's on an auction site. The auction is going to run out, period. Like, I'm going to let the auction run. And that's the honest thing to do, is I'm going to let the auction run. You could bring me...
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
With regards to that, how many online auctions have you done, ballpark?
I think I've done probably 300, 350 on eBay, and maybe 15 or 20 on other sites.
Okay, few hundred. How many times have you sold a car to somebody who said, "What's the buy it now price? What's the price so I don't have to deal with the auction?"
So
not count. So eBay's kind of the
one time that I can remember.
Okay,
yeah, one time.
eBay doesn't really count because they would have auction plus buy it now, which just didn't work for either one. Yeah, but your point remains: 400 auctions. once.
Yeah, that's true.
I've zero. Never have I ever sold a car to a guy who called up and said, what can I buy it for right now? And that is including Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld tried to buy a car out from under a BAT auction. And I said, great, make me an offer that makes it worthwhile to screw my relationship with BAT. Mm-hmm. And he offered me $10,000 less than what it ended up selling for.
Oh, that is an awesome story.
Anyway,
and I think that is a great example, because like I've got several cars. I got 2 cars on BAT right now, and I think you just gotta let it roll out. I actually hate when people want to actually come and see the car. Like if they know where it is and they come to see it at my shop, and they say I want to schedule an appointment to come look at the car, I'll let them. Inevitably, what happens is they try to buy it off the auction. If they want to send someone to like inspect the car, I welcome that.
Yeah.
If they want to come and like try to do the deal, I literally hate that.
Yeah.
Because it's it's sort of like a covenant. You know what I mean? Like I'm putting this car up for auction. I mean, when that happens at the dealer auction, I've the most incensed I've ever been is when like good old boy side sale happens. Like, oh hey, I want that car. And then they get the car, and then you were going to pay $10,000 more for the car, but you don't get the car. It bothers me.
Yeah.
It bothers me. So good for you, Jerry Seinfeld.
The Mr. Brightside. Pros and cons of, well, it wasn't Seinfeld. It was one of his people. But anyway, it was for him. Pros and cons of working in the industry. What parts of starting new companies has had the biggest impact on your life? I stumped him.
Wow.
I didn't. You did.
I tell you, the biggest the biggest part of after I sold P3 and the current endeavors that I've got going on right now, there's something to yes, I can. There's just something to that. You know what I mean? To like, you know how like this year you said SwitchCars, you've now got, you don't answer the phone anymore. There's such a that's such a victory, and that victory, like I mean that is worth more than like whatever the money is. That is worth more. So like those victories, like right now, one of the things that's most refreshing right now is like I have amazing employees, and that's the first time I can ever say that. Like this current situation, I've hired most of my current staff, and a lot of them have been. I've hired friends before, and it's always been really bad. But I hired for this one of my current businesses a guy that I worked with at the car dealership that I started back in the PAL situation. And this guy's just such an awesome guy, and it just to have hired him and gotten him into a job that is awesome for him, and like I don't know, like there's those kinds of things, those like weird non-monetary victories, wins. Like the wins are a big deal. Honestly, your Freddie Mercury thing was a win. The guy that came at Tampa, there was someone that came in like full Acura. I don't know if you've ever watched that movie, but he came dressed as Canada. I don't know if you've ever watched anime. No. But it was like, when I saw that, I was like, dude, this is like the most fulfilling thing that's ever happened to me. And in that moment, it was like amazing. So like, I don't know if I answered that question, but like,
I don't know either. It's a very existential question.
I like it though. I like the existential. We're getting philosophical.
Goodness gracious. Okay, I think we're gonna do one more question, and then we got to get to the props and flops and some other things. Am I gonna pick one of? I'm sorry. I'm gonna pick one of my questions over one of the viewer questions. I'm really sorry. It's my show. I get to do that. True or false? I think this is kind of a good wrap-up type question because I came up with it. True or false? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
False.
Why?
It's too that's too cliche. I mean, it really there's gonna be tough days. There's gonna be the day where you're like, there's just the fire marshal comes and he's not happy about your exit sign. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be a day where the phone system goes down. There's going to be a day where, like, I remember the first negative feedback I got on an auction. And it was like, if it had been like a justified thing, but it was like an insane dude. And this is back in the eBay days, and eBay removed it. But like, the dude was a menace to society. You know what I mean? And it was over an amazing, like, if only I could have that car. I mean, it was like a ex race car, like, documented history. Like
please send me that car back so I can sell it to somebody more deserving.
Exactly what I said. I was like, I will give you, I think I offered him like $500 more than what he paid for it, plus the shipping to get it back. Nah. And he just wanted to, there's certain people. That's what I mean. Like,
that's why I have the wall of shame.
Yeah. There's certain people. There's just certain things, certain situations, certain people that make that not true. I mean, like, if you do what you love, so like at the height of, where music was really popping for me, yes, it was enjoyable. Like, the height of, the first Testarossa I had, enjoyable. Like, little things like that. But like, at the end of the day, like, when you go buy a V70R and it breaks down 5 feet from where you were and you're on the side of the road and you're calling your buddy and you're like, hey, can you come pick me up? Like, you're working. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you're working. Yep. So.
Yeah, I think even race car drivers have days that they work because they're dealing with.
Absolutely.
I don't know what. Physical training, right? They have to work out and have their.
I think it's not true. I think it's universally not the case.
No, it isn't. I think it's a dangerous myth that perpetuates discontentment in quote unquote normal jobs, and what leads so many people to say, "Oh, I want to be in the car business. This is a dream job. This must be so exciting." You get to walk in, just look at these cars all day. I'm like, no, I look at my computer screen all day.
Right.
So, but no, it certainly does make it better for sure to work here versus working in a corporate tower or something like that. Yes, it's better. There's no denying that, but it's still work. It's still
absolutely
work. All right, Tim, you are a drummer, among other things.
Yeah.
I also am. Now, usually we have this little snare drum and cymbal here for jokes. We haven't made any dad jokes this evening, which is actually this episode should just be scrapped as a result. But I figure we should have a drum off.
Oh man!
To see on this who is actually the better drummer.
Okay, go ahead.
Did you bring your mullet? I feel like the mullet helps.
It's in the car.
It's in the car.
I don't need my mullet for this.
You don't need your mullet?
I don't know what's involved. I don't know
what's involved either. I've never played one of
I'm
these.
going to go with, in this situation,
I feel like a Muppet character.
You can have the crown. You can have the crown on this one.
I want to see what you got on
this.
I
want to. You go first.
Go.
No.
Let's
you go first.
All right, fine.
You go first. He's going to go first. Huh.
What do you got?
He got the style points. Can
you twirl those sticks?
I don't know. It looks like I'm having a wee smoke.
Somebody has been that's like drumline quality there. Somebody was in marching band.
Thank you. I need more bass on my voice. More compression.
More compression. All right. We're not going to pick a winner, but...
it's you. I mean, I feel like you monstered that. Plus, you had you were into it. He was into it.
All right. It is time for props and flops. Oh, man. We're going to do prop first because the flop is a contentious one. And we're going to need everybody out here. The flop of the week is a voting one. The prop of the week goes to Nissan with their new appropriately named 400 horsepower 400Z. Comes with a proper 6-speed manual gearbox. Unfortunately, nothing is naturally aspirated anymore as this car utilizes a 3-liter V6 twin turbo, but hey, at least it's not electric. Some of the features are carbon fiber drive shaft, automatic rev matching, A feature I initially wanted to hate, but I kind of liked it, and now I really hate it. Available limited slip differential sport exhaust. Why do they call it a limited slip? It should be called, like, controlled slip. Like, that's what it's for, so you can drift the crap out of it.
For what it's worth, I really think this car is the business.
I think it is, too.
It's like, if
14-inch front and rear rotors, double wishbone suspension, optional raised 19-inch wheels, and it's rear-wheel drive, and I'm guessing that one button turns all the nannies off.
And they're saying like 36,000.
Yeah, 40K.
Yeah.
How much does it weigh? That's important.
I think the target is 3,000 pounds.
He said 1 pound. No.
Hold up. He got the actual.
Okay.
He got the stats.
All right.
Ethan, is there a problem?
Flop of the week.
Ethan looks like there's a.
Are we all good?
Everything all right?
He's tired.
I can't tell.
He got his
look.
booster shot today. He's very tired.
30,
okay.
32.51.
You guys get to vote on the flop of the week. That's a nice poundage. All right.
That's what she... High five!
It took
High
the
five!
whole episode, but we got there. All right. I am known for my controversial opinions. I'm not known.
Bye. We'll see ya.
Bye.
Ethan loves you.
Oh, gosh. Flop of the week. I'm known for my controversial opinions, and I'm not known for keeping them to myself.
Who is Mark Spence? Oh, no. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I misunderstood. Sorry.
If only we could start the episode where we ended it, or end it where, something. I don't know. We need to drink more before. Okay, unlike my opinions, I keep most of my charitable giving quiet. And personally, we're very particular about who we give to in order to make sure it's a real need, that it will help, and that will be used wisely, because money doesn't always help things. Last night, I stumbled across a T-shirt sale fundraiser in honor of a guy who lost his house and his beloved custom Porsche in the Colorado fires. All proceeds of the sale went to him and his family. To me, it was a noble gesture, but it seemed to be kind of a bad look, and I posted it as such. Essentially, my response was, so we're doing a fundraiser for a rich guy who likely has plenty of insurance, or at least should have. My point was that it looks bad, as there are probably people in real need as a result of the fires. The guy will get $1 million for his house and his car from his insurance company, and he can go buy another one.
Especially if he has Haggerty, who
does not sponsor the show yet. So,
I love you. Haggerty.
Okay, so is their T-shirt sale for a rich guy whose Porsche burned down in the fires and is likely insured, is that the flop of the week, or is me not being able to keep my opinion to myself and crapping on somebody's noble gesture in an attempt to do good for a member of their car community? Am I the flop of the week for not shutting up? Honest vote. Hands up if the Instagram post, if the fundraiser was a flop of the week, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Don't yell. I can't. 1, 2, 3. Okay, raise your hand if me posting that response was a flop of the week. 3-2.
I'm in the middle on that. Like, both of those things are kind of flops. Posting it in this environment, I think, is more of a flop, because it's just going to be like total pain and suffering for you.
I get it, but it's like, it's such a bad optic, right? Like, we're doing a fundraiser for a millionaire. Why do they? If your car collection burned down, would you want a T-shirt sale to help you out?
My car collection is insured through Haggerty, who sponsors MotorVice. And hopefully my YouTube channel.
Okay.
Thanks, Haggerty.
All right, 3-2. I don't know. Maybe online you can vote. I was prepared.
I'm in the middle
if I lost that, I was prepared to buy 2 of the T-shirts to support the sale, even though the guy probably whatever.
Do we know he was like? I need more details. I mean, I feel like
we don't have a lot of details. Yeah. That's it. I'm just saying the optic of it.
It isn't a great look. But both things are. I'm with Ethan on this one.
I admit I should keep my opinion myself a lot more. But
I used to never do that, and now I always do that because no one. Well, we don't have to talk about that.
Okay. Anyway, all right. 2 flops of the week, myself included. Whatever. I've stirred up so much online controversy in the past 2 weeks. It was. I just had to keep it going. So, yeah, we'll find out about some more of that controversy in the Cannonball community that I started as well. That'll come.
That's the real controversy.
That is the real controversy.
I want to see the end of that, boy.
Did you read that whole thing? Are you?
Yeah.
I meant what I said what I meant. It's out there.
It's controversial.
I mean what I say when I'm looking for my script here. I think I memorized it by now. Where can people find you online? Tim's Enthusiast Garage?
Tim's Enthusiast Garage. Do the YouTube channel. So youtube.com/Tim's Enthusiast Garage. Instagram, Tim's Enthusiast Garage, and MotorVice. Also, if you like detail supplies, tenting supplies, 44tools.com or 44tools on Instagram. If you use promo code SWITCH, you save 10%.
Oh, yeah?
44tools.com.
SwitchCast. Let's keep it consistent.
We just kept it Switch because people
Switch.
It's
all
hard.
Right. Promo code Switch.
Promo code Switch.
All right. Well, thank you, Tim, for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, for real.
Yeah. I feel like I know you far more than I did 35 years ago at that car show. Thank you to our actual sponsors, GT Vault, Boxcast, Switchcars, Celebrity Machines, and Stephen Holm Woodworking.
This table is
our
nice.
Fake sponsors, Haggerty, 44 Tools, ECS Tuning, all that. Thank you to our producer and call screener, Ethan Huffnagel. Our bumper music is provided by Emily and Ivory. You can stream the full album on Spotify or SoundCloud. This episode will be available Friday in audio format wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next Wednesday, 8 p.m., and we'll look forward to answering your automotive questions to help you on